Hello, welcome to ANS Solver. This is the seventh question of the paper. So, Bob is a self employed builder. In the past, his weekly income has a mean of 546 and a standard deviation of 120. Important data, okay? Following a change in Bob's working pattern, his weekly income in 40, which is your N, randomly chosen weeks, is 581, which is basically your test value. You should assume that the standard deviation remains unchanged at 120. We need to test at 2.5 significance level whether Bob's mean weekly has increased. So I can state my null hypothesis, which is my initial claim, that his mean is equal to 546. Now the rival claim, which they are saying the income has increased, is basically the mean is more than 546. Now what I do is I make a simple normal distribution curve. Agreed? My significance level I can say is 2.5%. Now because we need more than, we know this is more than the mean. So it lies somewhere here, correct? And 2.5% is the part shaded in red. So 2.5% is basically 0.025. Agreed? So now what if that is 0.025? Okay, I know the part here is 0.975. Correct? This is what I know. So now what I need is I need the Z value. So for the Z value, I go up to the table. Okay, I know my value was 0.975, where my probability is this, and the respective Z value for that is 1.96. Correct? So I can go down now. Sorry. Yeah. So I can say this Z value is 1.96. Now what I do is I calculate my Z statistic value, which is given by my test value minus my mean over the population standard deviation over root n. So my Z statistic value is basically, I know my test value is 581 minus the mean, which is 546, over 120, which is my standard deviation, over root n, which is 40. Correct? So now I can write this as my Z statistic value equals to 581 minus 546 over 120 over root 40. So I can simply write this as 1.8446. Agreed? Now we compare a Z value, Z star value with a Z value. So between 1.8446 and 1.96, 1.96 is bigger. That means we write do not reject the null hypothesis. Okay? And we can then state that no evidence of passes weekly income, of income increase. Okay? Just think about it graphically. I have 1.8446. 1.8446 denoted by the green line, I know will lie somewhere here, which does not lie in the shaded area. That means I do not reject my null hypothesis. I reject the claim of the alternative hypothesis that I will claim. Okay? So now, Bob finds his mean weekly income for another random sample of 40 weeks. Okay? And carries out a similar test at 2.5 significance level. Given that Bob's weekly income now is 595, find the probability of a type 2 error. So probability of a type 2 error basically means, it's a concept, it basically means when you accept your null hypothesis, but your null hypothesis is false. So now what you need to know is, you need to basically know the probability or the value of acceptance. But for that, you need to know the value of rejection. Okay? If you see the curve up here, 1.96, more than 1.96 was where the rejection started. Agreed? Because this was the portion in red, correct, was the area of rejection. So what I can simply do is I can write 1.96 equals to, okay, we know we need basically a test value. Agreed? Agreed, we need a value minus the previous mean. Take the previous mean only, 546. Don't take the new mean, okay? While calculating the area of acceptance, we have to take the new mean, not now. Over the standard deviation, which is 120 over root n. N is basically 40. So I can write this as 1.96 into 120 over root 40. Okay, and I can add that to 546. So I get my value basically as 583.18. Agreed? Now what do? I know more than this area is the value of rejection. Okay, so acceptance will be less than this area. So what we basically need to do is, we know our z value equals to 583.18 minus the new mean, which is 595 over 120 over root 40. Agreed? So I'll get my z value basically as, when I solve this, okay, I get my answer as minus 0.6225. Agreed? Now, I told you more than was rejection. So we need less than now because we need acceptance. So I write the phi of minus 0.6225. So I can simply use my calci for this. So what you can do is, on the calci, what you can do is simply go on mode. Okay, when you click on mode, click on 3 where stat is written, then click on AC. When you click on AC, click on shift, then click on 1. When you click on 1, click on 5. Now you get this as 1P, 2Q, 3R and 4T. So more importantly is our options 1 and 3. So 1 basically means less than and 3 basically means more than. Here we need less than of the z value. So we click on 1. When we click on 1, we get P with something like this. So in the bracket we simply write minus 0.6225. Agreed? So now when I solve this on the calci, I basically get my answer, okay, I get my answer basically as 0.267, which is basically the probability of a type 2 error. So this was a very good question, at least the second part. So you can go through it, understand the basic mechanisms, it's the basic concept you need to know. Okay, you need to be thorough with your concepts to get this right.